Hello, this is Jade the Stone, and welcome to speedARTicles, where I talk about a piece of media that I like and draw some fan art for it. It's been a while since I made one of these, but it's been quite the year. Additionally, it's difficult for things to align in the right way to make one of these videos. Either I have a lot to say about a topic but no idea what to draw, or I have an idea of what to draw, but I'm still figuring out what to say beyond the incomprehensible shouting of, "I like this thing!" Finally, I've touched upon something where both of these things work out. It's something that I've already been doing lots of art for, and it's something where I have roughly 3 months worth of written content from reacting to it on Twitter. That something is the 1987 version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, I've already talked about the most recent animated incarnation of the franchise, and I have seen and written about the 2012 version in the past. But this was my first time attempting to go through all 200 episodes of the 10-season run of the very first animated incarnation of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And considering that I watched all 200 episodes over a steady pace of viewing them in a little over 3 months, as well as doing multiple pieces of art for it, I can say that I probably like this series. So why would I go back to a much older version of TMNT? Well, for one thing, I like looking into the past and seeing older cartoons. I also very much enjoy the TMNT franchise and wanted to see its animated origins. I was a little too young when it was initially being aired. Heck, I wasn't even born for most of its first seasons, so I don't have much of a sense for it beyond exceedingly vague memories. And finally, I've already found myself fairly entrenched in the TMNT fandom, so might as well give my followers what they want and ramble about a franchise we all love. My main finding from watching the OG cartoon? It holds up better than expected. Or at least in ways I was surprised at. Its basic storyline is of course similar to many TMNT versions in that it is about 4 mutant turtles named after Renaissance artists, taught ninjutsu by a mutant rat man to fight the forces of evil, mostly in the guise of the evil ninja Shredder and his alien partner in villainy, Krang. Now, I was expecting a likely odd and poorly animated romp through an 80s action series, and that is largely what I got, but I found some things that went beyond my expectations as well. The first thing that took me by surprise in this version of TMNT was the turtles' human friend, April O'Neil. I thought she'd be your cliché and likely not politically correct, written by a man, damsel in distress type character that you would normally expect to find in an older action show. But man, was I wrong. April might be my favorite character in the show, and may also be my favorite version of her character. She is in practically every episode, and has a good balance of having her own motives and goals, and being tied to the plot and the turtles. In this version, she is a reporter for the Channel 6 News, and always is on the lookout for the next big story. Yes, she is frequently in need of saving, but she helps the turtles just as often. As mutant vigilantes, it's good to have someone in the press to push for good PR and to back you up with information and general support. She's got a whole lot of spunk and is incredibly fearless, going where there's trouble because no matter what, she's going to get that story. It's actually a running gag that out of her news team, she's the only one brave enough to take on more dangerous jobs. The main thing that holds up with her character is that she has a lot of agency in both her own fate and in the episode's plots, all with a courageous and powerful personality. I could easily write an essay about just April, but I feel I should get to the turtle part of TMNT. In the early seasons, the turtles felt somewhat homogeneous and tended to be featured in the action all together, rarely having individual scenes in which to shine. But as the series went on, they were given more individual moments in episodes. Not only that, but there was lots more variation in team-ups and dynamics between the 4 turtles. As we get into the 3rd season onward, the team and character dynamics really come into play, and I'd say became one of the strong suits of the series. My main complaint in other TMNT series, namely the 2012 series and to a slightly lesser extent Rise of the TMNT, is that the show tended to lean on the Donatello and Michelangelo team-ups, and especially the Raphael and Leonardo dynamics. If there was a reason for a team-up in an episode in those shows, it was usually those pairs almost exclusively. TMNT 87 doesn't have that preference. and in fact has much greater diversity in who teams up with who has the spotlight, who saves the day, much more than most other TMNT iterations that I've seen. It was a breath of fresh air to someone who has been rather tired of the Raph-Leo rivalry to finally see a Leo who feels very perfect for the leader role, and a Raph who definitely does not want the leader position. And it was just nice to see all the characters have more opportunities to play off of each other. For the overall writing of the series, it's mostly episodic. The first season is a wonderful 5-part story showcasing their origins and the main forces at play. I'd honestly recommend it to anyone who wants a small snippet into the 87 series, and to get a good idea for the TMNT franchise as a whole. However, a majority of the rest of the seasons are your usual episodic fight between the Turtles and Shredder and Krang, occasionally interspersed with various other villains, side characters, and plots. It's this form of storytelling that shows its age, since some of the episodes were shown out of order, some don't always fit into the overall continuity, and some feature dated references. If I'm being honest, some chunks of the middle seasons could easily be skipped, but many are interspersed with excellent gems of episodes that feature some fun characters, among which are the Rat King, who's my personal favorite secondary villain, Mona Lisa, the Neutrinos, Lotus, who's a precursor to Karai, and Mondo Gecko. As the show goes on, it also gets better with figuring out what's good pacing and what is just padding for time. Later seasons are rather good at keeping up the tension and kept me interested in seeing what would happen. And honestly, with the wildness that is this strange, sometimes campy series, I often had no clue where an episode would go. The last 3 seasons were where the show decided to get less episodic and more chronological. Many things changed for these seasons, known as the Red Sky seasons for the literal red sky shown in the background. The plot got more serialized, the tone of the show got a bit darker, April was shown less, a character named Carter was included as part of the main cast, Krang and Shredder were replaced with Lord Dreg as the main villain, and even the theme song changed. It was an odd direction to go, to say the least, but I believe it was in an attempt to match the more serious tone of kids' media of that era. Some parts of it were honestly very intriguing, especially the plot thread involving the Turtles' mutations becoming unstable. That certainly kept up the level of intrigue for me. And they managed to up the ante with every episode, too. On the other hand, the animation and some of the basic writing got rather awkward at times, and I felt like they kept bringing back Dreg as a villain despite feeling like he was already defeated in a previous episode. Overall, it felt as if they were attempting to create a serialized show back when there weren't that many serialized shows, especially serialized cartoon shows. So they didn't have that much to base the writing off of, and it felt like they were throwing lots of things out there to see what stuck. It's awkward by today's standards, but has a lot more effort, and it's better than you'd think for a show that was largely created to sell toys. While not necessarily holding up to today's media, you could see an inkling of more modern writing in there, and I find that very interesting. The main thing that definitely does not hold up well at all with this series, however, is the animation. It's old and clunky. There are many color errors in a series where the sole way to distinguish the main characters is their mask color. The lip syncs are often awkward, and the action movements can be stilted and unnatural. And no, it doesn't get that much better with time. If I had to pick a season with the best animation in it, it would probably be season 8, where it looks like they got a minor boost in the budget, but then used it all up by the time they got to the next season. And even then it was still not devoid of color mistakes and awkward timing. However, the talent of the voice actors more than makes up for the dated animation. When you are lacking in dynamic expressions and body language, the personalities of the characters have to come from somewhere, and that somewhere is from the voice actors. They are near perfect in their roles. From the matter-of-fact voice of Donatello, to the snarky voice of Raphael, to the soft-spoken nobility of Leonardo, and the laid-back surfer dude Michelangelo. Splinter's sagely voice, Shredder's harsh tone, Krang's, I don't know how to describe it, alien-y voice. Everyone is near perfect. And whatever the animation lacks, the characters really shine through with their voices. It also upped the humor as well. Even if the animation's timing wasn't on point, the vocal delivery was. I found myself having a chuckle over many of Raphael's one-liners and fourth wall breaks. I found Shredder's practical temper tantrums hilarious, as well as his snappy arguments with Krang. April's sassy retorts were always a joy. And just the pure back and forth from nearly everyone in the cast definitely holds up to today's superhero genre banter. So, would I recommend this series? If you go into it without any expectations and just want to have fun, then yes, I would wholeheartedly recommend it. I watched all 200 episodes within a few months, and it never felt like a slog or that I was forcing myself to watch it. When there was an episode that didn't grab me, I did other things with it in the background. But many, especially later seasons, when they got into the groove of things, held my attention and kept the pacing and tension up quite well. I'd say it works well both as an introduction to the franchise and a fun thing to look back on for fans of more recent incarnations. I certainly found that this version of series had some things that even more modern versions were lacking. It's a good, easy viewing to anyone not wanting something too heavy, but just enough to keep your attention at the good parts. Amidst the 80s camp and awkwardness, there are some honest gems in there, and certainly lots of laughs. I had so much fun with this series. I'm actually interested in checking out the next animated version of TMNT that I've been neglecting to watch, and that is the 2003 version. I will similarly be reacting to it on Twitter, and then likely doing a review such as this. I've been working a lot on my art and even trying out some animation for myself. So if you want to see some of that, then check out my Twitter and other social media. Links are in the description. If you appreciated the video, let me know in the comments and leave a like. If you want to see more by me, maybe consider subscribing. And if you want to support my art, consider donating to my Ko-fi, which you can also find a link in the description. It really helps me out. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.